Welcome back to Light in the Battle. I'm Faustina. I'm a single autistic mom raising an autistic child, healing from narcissistic abuse, and winning in court. I'm doing it all without a husband, a safety net, and I'm carrying 99% of the parenting load. It's just me, my kid, my dog, and Jesus. If you're here for perfectly curated influencer energy wrong podcast, if you're here for blunt truth, nervous system reality checks, and the occasional inappropriate joke, I got you. This space is where we get clearer, calmer, and spiritually harder to mess with. Before we begin, if you're familiar with the show, I'm going to ask you to please leave a 5-star review. It's going to help push the show towards the women who need this content. Thank you so much. This episode will work hand in hand with episode 16. In episode 16, I talk about the brain chemicals that keep us addicted to chaos. But this episode right here, it plants the scene with an example of what it felt like to suddenly have to embrace quiet and peace. So let's get into it. There's a pattern I see in almost every autistic woman who escaped a relationship that involved narcissistic patterns. We say we want peace. We beg for it. We pray novenas for it. We talk about it. And when it finally shows up, we reject it. We don't want it. We push it away. It's the strangest thing. It's hard to explain if you don't dive into how that works. What you realize in most cases is that there was either a childhood or a relationship that was chaotic, and so the nervous system has wired itself to expect chaos because our brains are efficient. The danger was predictable. Anything quiet or calm was suspicious. In those dynamics, it meant get ready, something's about to blow, and then you add autism on top of that. It's the perfect storm because autistic nervous systems, we don't just react to danger, we remember it with precision. It feels safe. There's predictability in certain relationship dynamics. There's patterns. And all of that feels safe, even if it's harmful. It's sick, but that's how it works. Chaos is predictable when you grow up with it or when you married into it and you've been in it for years. Peace is not. We're not addicted to suffering. We're addicted to certainty, to those patterns, to the cycle of abuse. And so calmness can feel like the threat because peace has never been safe data in our system. In my situation, I've had to respond to repeated court filings for years. There was a lot of preparation and documentation I had to put together. If you're here listening to this, you can most likely relate. For years, I lived in a state of chronic fear and pressure. I could see those patterns that felt deeply harmful to me, but I didn't initially have the tools, the language, or the support to explain them in a way that the legal system could understand. And so I kept losing because I hadn't learned how to navigate those dynamics, the pressure, the intensity of that system. I didn't understand how to present things, how to stay calm emotionally during hearings, how to act in a legal system that is not built to recognize trauma patterns or power imbalances. And so after years of that and a lot of research on how to handle complex dynamics in front of a judge and high-stress legal environments, actually the entire situation turned around. I won in a way that completely shifted the long-term trajectory of the case, and it rebalanced everything in my life. The outcome of that last hearing, it changed the entire dynamic. And it brought a level of stability and fairness I had not had before. And so you would think that was good news. You would think I'd be happy about it. I'd be relieved. I'd switch overnight from living a certain way, feeling a certain way, for many, many years to, okay, we're good now. Let's go dance in the poppy fields with my kid and my dog, and we're good now. No, no, that's not what happened. Winning felt deeply unsettling. I'd become so accustomed to rulings that kept me over accommodating, over responsible, that I just didn't expect anything to change. I was so accustomed to outcomes that didn't make sense, to bracing for impact after every hearing, to feeling unseen, misunderstood by a system that is not trauma informed, that a positive outcome completely shocked me. I cried for days. I would run into a friend, I would run into someone I know on the street, shake the priest's hand after Mass, talk to other moms at school, and just start bawling because my nervous system could not handle that shift. It was a shock. It all felt foreign to me. It felt really threatening. I'd been living under layers of fear, pressure, emotional overload, and a constant sense of being unable to explain what I was experiencing, or not being believed, or being gaslit even more by my friends and all these people that mean well. I'd carried the financial stress, the confusion, and rulings that just kept destroying me more and more. All of that was gone. Okay, well, that sounds great, but it had become part of my identity. Who was I now? If I'm no longer caught in very harmful dynamics, surrounded by people that don't get it, who am I now? I sat with that question for weeks, and as our routine with my son started to change, thanks to that win, I had to start dealing with the fact that the shift had occurred and that peace had arrived, as threatening as that felt. I didn't know what to do with all this new bandwidth. For the first time in years, I wasn't preparing for another round of legal stress, another financial shock. I wasn't having to hold my child with that old, overwhelming fear in my body, the fear that something could happen that might separate us. That fear had lived in me for so long that its absence felt surreal. It left a huge void. Okay, so what I did is I tried to fill the void with binge watching series. I think I watched all the Housewives. Great use of my time. With sleep. I probably did have sleep to catch up on. With exercise, with changes to my appearance, I just didn't know what to do with myself. Until the day I named it. I realized I didn't know what to do with myself when I wasn't living in constant fear, pressure, and financial strain. Let's name that. I don't know how to look at my child without that old terror in my body that something could separate us at any moment. I started to name it. It didn't happen overnight, but it started to happen. And that was the beginning, the little signs that I was moving forward into my next chapter. Okay, here's who I am, and here's how I feel. And I started naming all the parts of myself that existed beyond merely surviving for all these years. I'm a mom. I live in this city. I go to this parish. This person and that person are my friends. I enjoy this type of hobby. I plan on doing this with my life, by the way. All the parts of myself that had nothing to do with surviving for so long. And what I had to do at that point was to learn stillness. I think I would have moved forward with my life a lot faster if I had learned to sit in this discomfort, feel all the feels, and be still in my new life. This is a pro tip I want to share with you because I think I wasted a bunch of time trying to fill the void. And so if you, listener, can, in the face of the discomfort of ending up in a peaceful situation, sit in it, be still in it. There's a reason scripture says, be still and know that I am God. Stillness is the hardest thing. in that part of our lives. And trusting God when He's let this happen to you, that's also the hardest thing. It's uncomfortable as hell. It exposes the noise inside of us. It exposes the giant bandwidth that we find ourselves with all of a sudden and don't know what to do with. When you break out of bondage, because that was bondage, the devil's not too happy about it. He doesn't love the idea of freedom. He definitely doesn't want you to feel peaceful enough that you would start going into prayer. Oh no, we don't want that. And so he tries to lure you back with the one thing you trust, chaos. What I did personally was, when I understood that, and it took me a long time, was rely on all the tools I had at my disposal: daily Eucharist, confession, I think once a month, holy water on my body and in my apartment, blessed miraculous medals, many tools that I used because I also understood there was a strong demonic piece to this battle, and I was at a key transition in my life from being very much dealing with heavy influences to remembering that Jesus had defeated evil. He's defeated evil over and over and over. And so I wanted to stick by Jesus. I wanted to seek his presence in the Eucharist, pray the rosary, remember that Mama Mary is like the OG devil crusher. So I wanted to be close to her. These are the tools I started using way later down the road to help me enjoy that stillness and to have that knowing that he is God. There was surrender there. Surrender is the exact opposite of needing chaos. So something to think about there that I wish someone had brought to my attention a lot sooner in the process. Okay, so that's the end of story time. I wanted to kind of plant the scene. Next week, we're going to talk about the 6 tips to unlearn the chaos loop and start moving into peace and embracing peace. I've had to split the episode into 2. This is the story, and we'll do the tips next week. Otherwise, it will be way too long. And then we'll move on to talking about the hormones in the brain that explain that addiction to chaos. I would like to encourage you again to leave a 5-star review, please, so that I can reach more women like you and me that need this content. Remember always to take it one day at a time, and we will see you next week for the 6 tips.